landing. Always worry, did you make the right decision? Did you test the right things? Did you put the right people in charge? We clearly did on Perseverance, but it just, it consumes you. It becomes part of you. And in some ways, it's hard still to believe that we finished it and that we're done. It still feels a little surreal because it just becomes embedded in the way you think. You have to be constantly terrified of it. You have to respect it. At the same time, you have to somehow believe that you can do it, or else you'd never try to put a car on the surface of Mars, right? It's crazy. And so it's part of what we do, I guess. And at some point,
for those just tuning in,
but there really is no good way to describe that moment when it's over.
For those just tuning in,
and you hear those words, touchdown confirmed.
They landed Perseverance on Mars. You can imagine the calculations that were involved in that. Just first of all, it's a rotating planet, right? Doesn't
really joy thinking forward to this.
And then you had to land on a perfect position.
That's the best I can do.
Literally,
let me turn it over to Al.
Oh no, like 500 million miles away. How do people do that? I don't understand how they do it. I'm not a big mathematician, but I couldn't calculate that for the life of me. I guess computers do that stuff these days. But I gotta tell you, the beauty of it is that they did it and they landed it successfully, and I got the first pictures back, and everyone's excited about it, and I'm equally excited about it too myself. So we'll go back to the
second guessing yourself as you go, even though
news
it's already
conference.
happened. It's kind of crazy, yeah. I mean, it's a feeling of being very fortunate. At the end, I think, for me, that I get to work at a place with people who are both great engineers and great people, and we still get to dare mighty things together. So
thank you.
Yeah.
Great, thank you. Okay, our next caller is Marcia Dunn of the AP. Go ahead, Marcia.
Yes, hi. Congratulations. For Al, all those blue dots all the red dots surrounding the little blue patch, are those mostly rocks? How close do you think you came from something that could have doomed the mission on landing? Thank you.
We'll have to take a closer look at exactly what we had there. I will tell you that in general, we make these maps a little scarier because we want to make sure that we find the safest spots. In fact, these maps are typically saturated at what we consider 4% hazard, so that if you came down there, I mean, some of these places are definitely problems, but and there's individual rocks that are marked there. So we're gonna have to take a closer look to see how close we came. But we definitely, the system did what it was supposed to do. It found the safest area that was available to it and went there.
Great. Okay, thank you. Next call is from Paul Brinkman of UPI.
Hello. Yes, thanks for taking my question. I'm wondering if someone can. I realize you haven't seen the descent images yet, but to what extent do you expect any major changes in Perseverance's planned route based on those images, and about how much imagery do you think you're going to get? I mean, in terms of the number of images or video, and how much better will those be than what you have from the orbiters? I don't know if that would be for Lori or Jennifer.
Go ahead, Lori. Or no, you're pointing at Jennifer.
I think Jennifer would be
Okay, go ahead, Jennifer.
Well, why don't I can talk a little bit about the images. We think over the next few days, we'll get all of the entry, descent, and landing movies down so that we can see basically that front row seat of what happened, all the different cameras, and we'll get those movies. I think as far as where we might go once we see those, I can probably toss that over to Ken and see what he says about that.
Yeah, I expect that what we will do is we will explore that contact that I mentioned between the Maffick Flora unit and the Olivine unit. And as Jennifer mentioned, that's a dune field, and we may have to go around the dune field, but I suspect we will go around it either one direction or the other towards the delta.
Great. Okay, thank you. We'll take our next reporter question from Sam Ahmed of AFP. Go ahead, Sam.
Hi, thanks for taking my question. Congratulations. We understand we had 2 mics on board. When might we know if Perseverance was successful in recording the first direct sound from Mars?
Jennifer, you want to take that one?
We should be able to get some of that information in the overnight passes tonight and tomorrow morning. So hopefully we'll be able to understand whether we got the sounds and what those sounded like.
Thanks.
Great. Okay, thank you. Next reporter is Kate Tobin from PBS NewsHour.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Wonderful. Congratulations to the team. Great job. And my question follows on the last 2 about the imagery from the cameras that you put on to the descent vehicle and on the rover itself. Can you talk a little bit? You say they're going to come down starting tonight and overnight. Is that all of them? I know there were some GoPro type sort of rugged sports cameras that you had pointed in all different directions and some high speed video that you were taking. Do you expect it all to come down in the next few hours, or is that something that's going to trickle in over days? And when do you expect to release it?
So let's let Matt take this one. Go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, I can give you a kind of an overview there. And you're correct. Yes, as I think Thomas mentioned or others have mentioned, for the first time, we're going to be able to see ourselves in high definition video land on another planet. We put commercial ruggedized cameras at various locations on the vehicle, 3 of them looking up at that big supersonic parachute, 1 on the descent stage looking down at the rover, 1 on the rover that looks up at the descent stage. And then we have 1 at the rover looking down as well. And so we think we're going to capture some pretty spectacular, we think we have captured, hopefully, some pretty spectacular video. And they come with a microphone as well. And so I think that's what you're asking about. We are, in fact, hoping that we can bring 1 image, 1 still image from those cameras to the table tomorrow from the descent stage looking down at the rover. And I think that's going to, hopefully, we'll see that. And I'm hoping that that's going to be a remarkable image. But the first video product we're going to work on over the weekend as the imagery comes down. And we're going to try to bring that to a press conference on Monday. And I think that's really going to be something to see. Yeah, it's going to be remarkable. I'm looking forward to it myself.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, our next reporter is Stephen Clark from Spaceflight Now. Go ahead, Stephen.
Hi, thank you for taking my question. Just wondering if maybe Jennifer Trosper can go through the timeline over the next couple of days in some more detail about, when the lens covers are going to be opened, when the high gain antenna will have a locked on Earth, and when the mast will be, deployed, and when the first drive might be. Just walk me through that for me, please. And maybe for Dr. Zurbuchen or Dr. Glaze, the Mars sample return campaign was really hinging on the outcome of today.
This is
wanted to get your comments on any relief that you felt that
a NASA live stream.
Your whole Mars sample return strategy
NASA.
Is reality
NASA.
now after today's outcome. Thanks.
Yeah, I'll start with what we're doing over the next several sols. This is Sol 0. So right after the rover landed, it actually fired some pyros and did release our high gain antenna and also release those lens covers, which is why the images that we expect to see this evening will be without the lens covers. And those will be the HazCam images, along with the other images we talked about. The first 4 or 5 sols, what we're trying to do is get the power, the thermal, and the communications, the infrastructure of the rover stabilized so that then we can go and load the software, as I mentioned. So the first thing we'll do tomorrow, we actually gyro compass today as well to see if we can understand our orientation such that tomorrow on Sol 1, we can point the high gain antenna at Earth. And then if we get good pointing, then we'll start commanding the vehicle through that antenna. And that's one of the key things we're trying to do in these early days is get that communication link working. We'll also release the remote sensing mast. And then on Sol 2, we'll deploy that mast. Now, while we're doing these things, which I call our critical path infrastructure things, we're also doing other health checks of other instruments. And over the course of the 3 sols or 4 sols of these early activities, we'll get all the instrument health checks done. We'll charge the rover battery. On that Sol 2, once we deploy the mast, that's when we'll take those initial images with our double E cams. Their camera, they're color this time. In the past, they've been black and white. We'll take those first panoramas, and then the Mastcam Z, which is also on the mast, we'll take those panoramas on Sol 3, and then we'll be sending that data down along with additional data from the EDL cameras and the other data that we talked about over this week. It'll take us till about Sol 4. On Sol 4, we actually start to load and burn into the RCE, so our flight computers, the new software. And once we start to do that, we do about 4 days of transitioning to the new software. We do it very carefully. We toe dip. We make sure that nothing goes wrong. And at the end of that is when we start the next set of checkouts where we'll deploy the arm. We'll do our first drive about 5 meters forward and back. And then once we get that checked out is when we'll start to drive towards a heli site. We'll have figured out where we want to fly the heli. There are certain requirements of that site in terms of rock sizes and flatness. And so we're looking for that right now. That ends up being, a few weeks before we get there, but we're excited about it all.
I want to quickly talk about your second question, Stephen, and that is, of course, there's a lot of friends all over the world who had a sigh of relief when everything went well with this touchdown. The Mars sample return colleagues, they're all working really hard to retire the risks of these new technologies and to bring together 2 of the most amazing missions to now bring the samples back. That's work that has started years ago, technology development and the system development here at JPL, at the European Space Agency and elsewhere. There's 2 principles we used to set the timing. The first one is we always bet on success. In our business, even if you sweat through shirt or not, like I learned about John, we bet on success because that's what we want to achieve. That's what we're planning for. The second one is to go right now and develop the Mars sample return campaign. Not only makes the search mission more effective in that regard, but also it actually saves a lot of money because we actually can use the systems that we have now, move towards that return. And so for that reason, I think there's a lot of people being excited right now all over the world. But Lori, anything you wanted to add that I may have overlooked in this?
I think you've covered that really well. The only thing I would say is that it's always nerve-wracking to as we go through the EDL for a lander or a rover. But it was doubly so this time because, as you say, the Mars sample return was also pretty, is reliant on the success of Perseverance. So we all definitely heaved a sigh of relief in thinking forward on all the work that's to go for Mars sample return. But really, really exciting that we've now really embarked on that chapter 1 of Mars sample return for real. So it's great.
Great, thank you, Lori. Okay, we're going to do a social media
really
question.
Absolutely,
this might also actually
it's absolutely
be for Lori.
crazy that they
Polls
landed
to do on Instagram asks if
and it's got a
Perseverance
helicopter on
finds
it too.
signs of past
So we're
or
gonna
present life,
some interesting
what
things
would
to
we do
watch there
next?
scientifically.
Oh, wow. That's a great question because there's still just so much to do on Mars. It's a fascinating place. And it's a wonderful laboratory for doing incredible science. And, certainly the big question for us right now is this question about the evolution of Mars and the existence or not of past life that's been preserved at Jezero Crater. And that's our focus right now. But we're always looking forward to the additional science that we're going to do in the future, thinking about, how planets form, how they evolve, and Mars is a great place to work on all of those different science questions.
Great, thank you. Okay, we're going to go back to the reporter phone lines, and we have Mike Wall of Space.com.
Thank you all, and congratulations. It was a really great day for all of us watching too. Just to kind of piggyback off of Stephen Clark's question about what the near future holds, could you maybe, Jennifer or John or Ken, do you go out, like another couple weeks or a month or so. I mean, how long do you anticipate it'll take to get to the helicopter site, and how long will those flights take? And I mean, when will the rover be able to actually like start doing science and like start gathering samples and so on and so forth, do you think? Thank you.
Sure. I'll go a little further out. I talked about we'll have the once we get the robotic arm working and we get mobility working, we'll go find the heli flight demo site. So it's about 3 weeks. And then depending on how close that site is, we have to traverse to it, and we still have the helicopter underneath the rover. So we can't use our auto navigation. We have to be a little bit more careful when we're doing that. So it could take up to 10 sols. It really depends on where we find a heli flight demo site. Then we will spend 30 sols. A sol is a Martian day. It's 40 minutes longer than an Earth day. So we speak in sols when we're doing operations on Mars. So we spend about 30 sols for the helicopter demo. Prior to that, it'll take us about 10 sols to get the helicopter just deployed underneath the rover, move the rover away. We go about 100 meters away before we fly it. So that's another 40 sols. So I like to say it's sometimes it's always hard to estimate exactly when things happen, but we'll be flying the helicopter in the spring here, and we'll be spending spring flying the helicopter. After that, we're going to upgrade our auto navigation capability on the rover, meaning we're just going to try it out, make sure it works. Then we'll drive towards the first science site that Ken and his team are interested in going to. Again, that depends on where they want to go, how long it takes us to get there. And that's the point where we will be doing the first sampling. So I like to say summer is the time frame when we'll be doing the first sampling. Those things can change. They might go faster. Or if we have to traverse to different places that take a longer period of time, it might go slower. That's a longer plan. And then one thing I'll just throw in the end, conjunction is around September, where we're not able to communicate with the spacecraft because the sun is between Earth and Mars. And so during that time, we'll spend a little bit of work finishing off some efficiency and operability capabilities for the vehicle to help it be even smarter and even more autonomous. And then after conjunction, we'll upload that new flight software build. And then that's when we can really do things even faster than we had originally planned.
I just want to remind people that you're listening to Sage T Radio, and we always cover these sort of things on Sage T. And I'm sorry if you're going to miss out on like little segments, but at the same time, it's so cool that they landed a rover in the exact position on a rotating planet. The trajectories are unusually impossible, and they did it. And they did it. And that means that when my life gets crappy and your life gets crappy, you can do it too. You can land your trajectories on a foreign planet, and you can do whatever you want to do. That's your life. You only get one. So you only get one. So land your trajectories on a foreign planet.
To Mars under pandemic conditions, and to what extent will COVID continue to affect operations? For example, will the rover operations also be at their kitchen tables and sofas and pets on laps, or does that now change? Thank you.
Yeah, I can start us off and say a few words. I'll let Jennifer say a bit about looking out into the future of the surface mission. The pandemic struck at just about the worst time for this mission. We had just shipped the vehicle down to Kennedy Space Center. It was in pieces. We still had to put it together. It's a critical point in time for us. You can't make mistakes. There's no safety net at that point. There's no double checks. You have to do it right. We were still finishing some of the flight hardware back here at JPL. We had very little schedule margin. The teams were already working multiple shifts and had already scheduled out the weekends. And, we had to react very quickly. And we were, normally you're just focused on trying to do the job, do it right, and get it done in time to make the planetary launch window. Because if you miss it, you're going to have to wait 2 years. And suddenly, we had to start thinking primarily about how to keep the team safe and their families safe. And how to get through all these logistical challenges. We were quickly trying to understand the protective equipment we had to bring in, what kind of social distancing we had to deal with, how many people could stand around the rover, and how close could they be inside a clean room, what kind of protection we got from our clean room garb. We were just struggling to understand if all of our support community, the companies that just clean the garments, for our clean room, or bring the nitrogen in for our thermal vacuum chambers, whether or not they were going to be there and continue to deliver the things that we needed to keep going. We had people here at JPL that had to travel to Kennedy Space Center, and we couldn't get them. We couldn't travel commercially, and so we had to ask for some help from NASA headquarters. Our friends at Armstrong gave us a jet to fly, helped us with transporting via an agency jet back and forth. We got support out of Wallops, another NASA facility, to fly some of our flight hardware there and back. So it was a very, very challenging time. And then we had to figure out how to actually launch the thing and fly it when, we had all these constraints as well. We were modifying our processes and protocols in our operations facility. Very, very challenging. And the team, I think that the team, like all of you out there, they're worried, worried about their parents or grandparents and just worried about their kids out of school, worried about taking care of, kids at home and doing their work. So it was a tough time. We actually, we decided to try to market. We put a COVID plate on the port side of the rover. It's now sitting on Jezero Crater with the vehicle. And you could see the video there of us installing that plate down at Kennedy Space Center. And that plate is really there to symbolize the challenge that not just our team was facing, but everybody has been facing. It's been a tough year. It's been tough to do this mission under these in this environment. But the team, like they have with every other challenge, has stepped up to it. We got a lot of help from the institution, from the agency, and I think
good for NASA.
And I think that's going to continue into the future so that we can do this surface mission.
What a wonderful company or
Well, I'll add
federal
that
agency
we are
NASA
not
is.
all together, and that's very
Good for them.
unusual for a landing. And when we start a surface operations, Ken's talking about his phone blowing up. Usually that would be a big meeting that's in one of the buildings here on the laboratory where we all talk about what the science of the mission is, and based on where we are, what we want to do. The engineering team is largely on site right now. And to finish development was a struggle being remote because these are complex systems. They take a lot of individual expertise, put together in a way that we can operate a vehicle, that we can build software that makes that vehicle work. And doing all of that remotely without as much interaction has been hard for the team. We have the science team now is fully remote. And so, it's just like all of you guys. I mean, I work from my laundry room for the last several months, right? And my kids are in Zoom school and they'll walk in and then people say they can't hear me because the washer's going. I mean, everybody has these challenges that are going on because this is not the way we typically would design a Mars mission. But the team has been fantastic and just overcome every challenge. We have now robots on the floor where if you're remote, but you want to go look in a room, you can log into one of the robots and you can drive it around the floor now in surface operations and go talk to the people that you want. So we've learned a lot about how to do things remotely. I think it has changed how we think about the problem, but it is challenging. And I look forward to the time. I think there will be a time when we can all be together again and not have all the restrictions. I'm in a room by myself, which is the only reason I'm not wearing a mask. And I think that does make it, one of the things the team missed out on a little bit was just that excitement and energy that comes from being all together right before landing.
I caught the
And
F
so
word
we were
there.
together,
I
but
know.
it was remotely. And so I think it'll be fun and great for the team to be able to get back together again when we can do that.
Okay, thanks, Jennifer.
Jennifer is a
comes from
lovely
Amina
person,
Khan
being able to
of the
do all
LA
that
Times.
and still
Hi. Thank you so much for taking my call. Can you hear me?
hardcore. It's hardcore.
Okay, great.
No question.
So I had a couple of questions here. Congratulations. To jump off of that last question. I was sort of wondering if all these pandemic restrictions will be affecting how you guys deal with Mars time. Will that be affecting the Mars time experience? And also, will it be affecting the experience of the rover drivers? How will that be changing because of the pandemic?
Yeah, well, the Mars time question is great. So Mars time, as you obviously know, you've asked the question, is we get up in the morning on Mars and then our clock shifts by 40 minutes every day. So when you're all here and you're together, that kind of works. But when you're sitting in your living room or, in a small room in your house, if you need to be on a telecon all night long, planning the rover's sequences for the next day, that may not work out for your spouse or your family or those things. So we've had to change. In some cases, we've actually had to create remote but on-site places for people to come to. We don't want to gather too many people together. We need to have our socially distant facilities. But we have several, I would say we have a couple dozen people who are remote but still coming to lab to different areas during Mars time so that they can not interfere with their family's life, which is not on Mars time. And then as far as our rover planners, they're going to get busy. They already have some meshes where they're trying to come up with strategic traverses with the images we have. But I think it's the same for them. They have some unique equipment they need to use. So again, we've set up some different locations where they can come in and use that equipment. It doesn't have to all be. We have some over in this building, and then we've set some up in another building. So rover planners who can't be at home on Mars time can come in. So it is different, and it's different for the families. And we'll see how it works. We do have probably about 50 people in here that when they work Mars time, they're actually at the facility and on console, as you see behind me.
Great. Okay. Thanks, Jennifer. Okay. The next call comes from Leo Enright of Irish TV.
Thanks very much.
Comes in Irish. There's coming in again.
And as we say in the Irish language, Cogordas O'Cree. To everybody involved, particularly the people on the Zoom screen. Many congratulations. I had a very detailed geology question ready for Ken Farley, but Jennifer Trosper mentioned a robot that they're using to communicate. I wasn't quite clear about that, so I thought I would ask about that a bit more. You said you're a robot that can move and talk to people?
I'll clarify. It's a robot that you can log into and essentially drive it around, and your face will be there, and you can zoom up, or you can drive up next to somebody that you want to talk to closer than 6 feet, and then you can have a conversation with them from your...
For a second. All right.
I mean, is it a rover or what is it?
No, it's just a robot that moves around the, I can't remember the actual maker. Maybe somebody can help me out with that, but it's a robot that we drive remotely around the floor. It really just has wheels and then a screen. It's a moving computer screen. Maybe that's a better way to describe it.
It's a fun robot. It's a happy
Could
robot.
I do a follow-up?
Wants to talk to you.
Sure, we can do that. Yeah.
Okay, thanks. Because I did have a question.
That's the least you have when you can do that telemetry.
Ken, this Zoom screen is fantastic because we're all used to the crowd coming in JPL after a landing. And the other tradition in JPL after a landing is the journalist with the geeky question. So I just wanted to ask you, could you clarify, have you landed at Canyon de Chelly? And if that is where you have landed, can you tell me whether you've looked at Channel Islands and the outcrop there that does appear to be a delta formation? And would you consider doing a quick run to Channel Islands rather than a long run over to the delta?
Yeah, okay, so let's clarify what's going on here. So the science team has associated specific Earth locations They happen to be national parks and preserves to specific regions in Jezero Crater. And it is from those quadrangles, we call them, those quadrangles on Earth, that we will draw the names that we informally attach to features that we look at and we take observations of. So we have, in fact, landed in the Canyon de Chelly quad. I'm not sure exactly where the feature that you were referring to is. I still think that our most likely ultimate destination is going to be to the west-northwest, and that we will very likely go up to the delta front that on the image you see right now is in the upper left-hand corner.
Okay, we're going to end on a social media question.
Cool. You just saw a
So Vince
photograph.
on YouTube asks, was the landing today the best one so far?
Yeah.
I'll ask Matt that question first.
Yes,
Yes.
100%. It was the best one so far. This is my 5th Mars rover. Jennifer and a handful of others of us on the project have worked, a number of these, and they're all very, very special, I have to say. But as of this moment, right now, this is the best landing on Mars, I would have to say.
Right on, America.
All right, great. Thank you. That's all the time that we have for questions today.
Can't beat
if
America,
you're a member of the
no
media
matter what
and
you
you
do.
still have a question, you can contact the JPL Digital News and Media Office. We'll continue to answer some questions on social media. And tune in to NASA TV and online tomorrow. We'll have another news briefing at 10 a.m. Pacific time, and we'll give you an update about the start of the Surface mission. If you want some more updates, you can also go online to nasa.gov/perseverance and mars.nasa.gov/perseverance for additional information. You can also follow us on social media at NASA Persevere. Now, one last thing before we go, I just wanted to say that if you wanted to welcome our latest robotic explorer to Mars, Mars will be visible in the night sky tonight. It'll be right next to the moon, so have a look.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for joining
Take a
us,
look.
and go Perseverance.
Right on. Fantastic. Thank you so much, NASA, for doing such great work. And oh my God. Isn't that interesting? I thought that was interesting. Okay. They landed a thing that had to travel 650, 70 or 80. I can't remember off the top of my head, but 600,000 miles, million miles away from this planet, and landed on a specific location on a rotating planet. So you can imagine the telemetry that is involved in that. So I want to encourage all, if there's any young watchers or people out there that aspire to be something, why don't you aspire to be that instead of working at McDonald's for the rest of your life or Starbucks? Aspire to not work for somebody. Aspire to be yourself, right? So that's my philosophy, and I'm telling you, a good education, and don't ever tell me, no, don't ever tell me a good education doesn't get you anywhere. The only people that tell you that are the people with a good education. So get out there, try your best, be smart, don't abuse your body, and I'm going to tell you, you will be successful. You could be the next person landing on Mars. You could be part of the colony. There's no reason. It's limitless. It's limitless. You could actually work for Telsa and make flying cars and stuff. Come on. Right? My time is done. I tried. I tried a little bit too late. That's the problem. And I could give that to you right now as a word of advice, that I tried too hard too late. But I still got on the Dean's honor list every single time I tried, because I tried. I had to try. I had no choice. It was like either that or die. And, lust for life. You know that song? Lust for life. If you have a lust for life, then you will live. believe me, and listen to great music. And so I'm going to divert you to what I play, which is on sageteradio.com. And that's what I do right now, currently. It might blow up again, but I got a chance to headline in New York City, you know. Not many people get a chance to headline in New York City, Manhattan, New York City, not just New York City, like the actual place. And I enjoyed my life. You know, if I were to step off tomorrow, I could say, yeah, you used to have a good life, you know, but it doesn't stop there. It has to keep going. And it's going to keep going until you decide to stop. If you stop, nothing's going to happen. Nothing will happen to you will make you happy. It's a competitive world, and you have to work really, really hard to get to where to the points and to the venues that you need to get at. You know, I mean, that's just my personal philosophy. But then again, you know, I can't keep carrying on like this. This is also silly. At the same time, maybe that was what God intended me for, or something like that. You know, I don't know. I just want you to think like NASA thinks, because if you can do that 650 million miles away and land a spacecraft on a specific location on a rotating planet, then you are meant to chill with me, man. I'm serious. I'd love to. I'd buy you the pint, okay? But that's just the way it goes, and that's the way Sage T Radio works, and that's the way Sage T works in general. So consider it. They might be hiring at some point along the way. So if you're like an astrophysics, like some kind of biologist, you know, molecular physics, then you could have a great future ahead of you. And all I do is the radio part. But you know, think ahead, because we're gonna be gulping up all of these former companies that are like passe. And it's all engineered by a lot of great people with great souls and great hearts, and nobody's a jerk in this company. So consider that. And I just want to say as well, take care of yourselves and love each other as well, right? That's the thing to do. It's the right thing to do, right? So, you know, as you go along your journey through life, you know, till the end. Because if you want a legacy, don't be a smart ass, don't be a jerk, don't be somebody that wants to, you know, oh, I crossed my mind that this person is this and that. Who cares? Think about yourself sometimes, you know? Why don't you think about yourself? And maybe you'll have a nice career in the future. I can tell you that right now, because I got in early. Peace.